I didn't plan on telling you this one, but it's been sitting on my chest. I was spending my Sunday night with that file open on my kitchen table, and I couldn't finish my coffee. My wife looked at me and said, "Frank, you're holding that paper like it weighs 100 pounds." She wasn't wrong. Some cases stick to your hands differently than others. She put a hand on my shoulder. "What is it this time, Frank?" I just shook my head and kept reading. This was Tuesday morning, 9:30 sharp, October 15th, 2019, if my memory serves right. The calendar said, Thomas Mitchell, probation violation hearing. Standard stuff usually. Missing appointments, dirty drug tests, failure to maintain employment. But when I opened that file the night before, I saw something I hadn't expected. Bank robbery. Federal time. 23 years served. Released 18 months ago at age 63. Now, I've seen plenty of bank robbers come through my courtroom over the decades. Usually they walk in with that same swagger they probably had walking into the bank. Shoulders back, chin up, as the world owes them something. Not this one. Thomas Mitchell walked into my courtroom like he was entering a church. Pressed white shirt, clean shave, hands folded respectfully behind his back. Maybe 65, maybe older. Hard to tell with someone who'd spent that much time inside. His face had those deep lines you get from years of thinking about what you've done. But his eyes were different. Tired maybe, or maybe just honest for the first time in decades. I watched him take his seat at the defendant's table. His public defender, a young woman named Sarah Chen, was shuffling through papers. I could tell from her posture that she was expecting the worst. Probation violations usually meant jail time, especially for someone with Thomas Mitchell's history. I looked at the file. "Mr. Mitchell, you're here for missing 2 check-ins with your probation officer in September 12th and September 26th, to be specific." He stood up straight, shoulders square. "Yes, Your Honor." "Can you tell me why?" His lawyer started to speak. I held up my hand. "I want to hear from Mr. Mitchell." The room got so quiet, I heard the old vents humming. Thomas Mitchell looked right at me. No fidgeting, no looking around the room, no excuses brewing behind his eyes, just direct eye contact. He said, "I was ashamed." Just that. 4 words. But something in how he said it made the whole courtroom lean forward. Even the bailiff shifted his position. "Ashamed of what, Mr. Mitchell?" 25 years ago, I robbed 4 banks in Massachusetts, Springfield, Worcester, 2 in Boston. His voice didn't shake. Got away with maybe $40,000 total. Cost me 23 years of my life. Cost my family more than that. I had to ask the question I always ask. Are you sorry you got caught, or sorry you did it? For a moment, nobody moved, not even my court reporter. The silence stretched like a hell breath. "Your Honor," he said, and his voice carried something I don't hear often in this room. Genuine remorse. "I've been sorry I did it every day for 23 years. Getting caught was the best thing that happened to me." Now that got my attention. In 40 years on this bench, I've heard every excuse, every sob story, every manipulation in the book. The addiction defense, the bad childhood defense, the mental health defense, some legitimate, some not. This didn't sound like any of those. I flipped to the probation report. Says here you've been working at a grocery store for 14 months. Night shift, stocking shelves. Star Market on Broad Street. Yes, sir. Minimum wage? Yes, sir, $12.75 an hour. After making $40,000 in a few months robbing banks, he nodded slowly. Your Honor, that money was gone before I spent my first night in prison. Lawyers, fines, restitution. But this job, he paused, this job lets me sleep at night. I read one line from his probation officer's report out loud. Then I looked up at him. Officer Rodriguez says, and I quote, "Mr. Mitchell is the most reliable employee Star Market has had in years. Never missed a shift, always early, and helps train new employees. Until September, his attendance was perfect." His hands were shaking now, just slightly, like autumn leaves in a breeze. I got scared. Scared of what? That you send me back. He paused, swallowed hard. Not because of the prison, Your Honor. I can handle prison. Because of my grandson. The court reporter actually stopped typing for a second. I felt the whole room holding its breath. Even the attorneys looked up from their phones. Tell me about your grandson, Mr. Mitchell. He's 8, Bobby Mitchell. Lives with my daughter Karen in Worcester. I get to see him every other Sunday if I keep my record clean and my probation current. His voice caught just a little. 2 weeks ago, he asked me something I wasn't ready for. What did he ask? He asked me to teach him how to throw a baseball properly. Said the other kids at school were making fun of his throwing. Thomas Mitchell's eyes got wet. And I thought, what if this hearing sends me back? What if I can't keep my promise to him? What if he's waiting in that park next Sunday and I don't show up? That's when it hit me. This man wasn't making excuses. He was explaining what mattered to him now. The difference between those two things is everything. I asked, so you missed probation because you were afraid of losing probation? Yes, sir. I know it sounds backwards. It sounds human, Mr. Mitchell. I opened another folder, thicker than the first. I'm looking at your prison record here. 23 years at MCI Cedar Junction, model prisoner, GED completion in 1998, vocational training, electrical work and carpentry, anger management completion, financial literacy course, victim impact counseling, addiction recovery program, even though you never had a drug problem. I looked at him. You also tutored other inmates for their GEDs, organized a grief support group after your cellmate's son died in Iraq, worked in the prison library for 12 years, 23 years of preparation. Preparation for what, Your Honor? For this conversation. I flipped to another page. I also see here that you sent money to your victims' families every year. Not much, $5 or $10 at Christmas, but every year for 23 years, even when you only made 50 cents an hour in the prison laundry. His voice was barely a whisper. They didn't have to forgive me, but they deserved to know I was sorry. Did any of them ever write back? One did, Mrs. Patterson. She was a teller at the First Bank, wrote me in year 15. His hands trembled. She said she'd been waiting for someone to say they were sorry. Not for her sake, for mine. The silence in that room was so complete, I could hear cars passing outside on Federal Hill. The morning commute continued while we sat here deciding whether a man would go home to his grandson or back to a cell. His lawyer leaned over and whispered something to him. He shook his head. Whatever she suggested, he wasn't interested. I said, Mr. Mitchell, do you think you deserve another chance? No, sir. That surprised me. Most defendants are full of reasons why they deserve mercy. No? I think my grandson deserves a grandfather who keeps his word. I think the people at Star Market deserve an employee who shows up. I think my daughter deserves a father who doesn't disappear again. He straightened up. I think the people I robbed 25 years ago deserved to feel safe in their workplace. I don't deserve anything, Your Honor, but maybe the people counting on me now do. And that, right there, was the difference. Not asking for mercy for himself, understanding that second chances are about the people counting on you to not let them down again. I thought about my own grandson that morning, 8 years old, just like Thomas Mitchell's boy, learning that promises matter, learning that grown-ups show up when they say they will, learning that trust is something you earn back, one kept promise at a time. I flipped through more pages. Bank surveillance photos from 1994. Thomas Mitchell, 25 years younger, was pointing a gun at a terrified teller. Victim impact statements from bank employees who still jumped at sudden sounds. A letter from his daughter, written when she was 16, begging him to stop. Mr. Mitchell, I'm looking at a letter your daughter wrote to the court during your sentencing. She was 16 at the time. His face went pale. I remember that letter. She wrote, "My father used to be my hero. Now I don't know who he is. I just want him to come home and be my dad again." Thomas Mitchell's voice barely made it across the courtroom. I read that letter every day in prison, Your Honor. Every day? I kept a copy in my cell, taped to the wall next to my bunk. 23 years of reading that letter before I went to sleep. The room was dead quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat. What did that letter teach you, Mr. Mitchell? That being someone's hero isn't about having money or being tough or getting away with things. He wiped his eyes. It's about showing up. It's about keeping your word. It's about being someone they can count on. I closed the file. Mr. Mitchell, standard violation for 2 missed probation appointments would mean 30 days in the adult correctional institutions and 6 months extended probation. His face went pale, but he nodded. I understand, Your Honor. Your lawyer can argue for mitigation. Would you like her to do that? No, sir. I missed the appointments. I accept the consequences. But I'm not imposing standard violation. The room stirred. Papers rustled. His lawyer looked confused. I'm imposing something different. I opened a small folder on my desk. Our community service fund has a small emergency assistance program. Usually it's for court costs, sometimes bus fare for job interviews, occasionally help with work uniforms. I looked at him. Today, it's for baseball lessons. Thomas Mitchell's eyes went wide. You're going to take that grandson of yours to Roger Williams Park next Sunday at 2 p.m. You're going to spend 2 hours teaching him how to throw a baseball. And you're going to keep every promise you make to that boy from now until your probation ends and beyond. I leaned forward. That's not mercy, Mr. Mitchell. That's accountability. To him. Your Honor, I don't know what to say. Say you'll be at your next probation appointment on time. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Say you'll keep that job at Star Market. Every shift, Your Honor. Every single shift. Say you'll call Officer Rodriguez if you ever feel scared about coming to an appointment again, instead of just not showing up. I will, Your Honor. I promise. Say you'll remember that this second chance isn't about your past. It's about his future. Thomas Mitchell's voice was steady again. I promise, Your Honor, on my daughter's life, I promise. I wrote something in his file. Violation dismissed. Probation continues as scheduled, with one modification. You will report to Officer Rodriguez every 2 weeks instead of monthly. And Mr. Mitchell? Yes, Your Honor. People make mistakes. Some people learn from them. Some people spend 23 years learning from them. Based on what I've heard today and what I've read in this file, you're in the second group. He stood there for a moment, like he couldn't believe it was over, like he was waiting for someone to say it was all a mistake. Then he said something I'll never forget. Your Honor, can I ask you one thing? Go ahead. Why? Why give me another chance when the law says you don't have to? I thought about that question for a long moment. The whole courtroom was waiting for my answer. Because justice isn't just about punishment, Mr. Mitchell. Sometimes it's about recognizing when someone's already punished themselves enough and learned the lesson. And sometimes it's about understanding that the people who love us deserve to see us try to be better. I looked at him directly. 23 years ago, you made a choice that hurt innocent people. Today, you made a choice to tell me the truth, even when it might have cost you your freedom. That tells me you've learned the difference. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank your grandson by showing up. Thank your daughter by being the father she wrote about in that letter. Thank the people at Star Market by being the employee they can count on. And thank yourself by remembering that redemption isn't something you get once. It's something you earn every day. After the courtroom emptied, I sat there thinking about 23 years, 23 Christmases in a cell, 23 birthdays alone, 23 Father's Days without his daughter, a grandson he never held as a baby, never taught to ride a bike, never helped with homework, a daughter who'd grown up, gone to college, gotten married, had a child, all while he was behind bars paying for 4 minutes of terrible decisions. Some people think mercy means going easy. That's not what happened in my courtroom that day. Thomas Mitchell got something harder than 30 days in jail. He got the responsibility of being worth someone's faith in him. He got the weight of a second chance and the knowledge that if he blew it, he wasn't just hurting himself. He was hurting an 8-year-old boy who was counting on learning how to throw a baseball. 3 months later, my phone rang at home on a Thursday evening. Caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Your Honor, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. This is Thomas Mitchell. What's on your mind, Mr. Mitchell? I wanted you to know my grandson learned to throw a curveball last weekend. His coach says he's got real potential, made the travel team. That's wonderful news. And Your Honor, I got promoted at work, assistant night manager. It's not much, but it comes with better hours and health insurance. That's something to be proud of, Mr. Mitchell. One more thing, sir. My daughter, she asked me to walk her down the aisle next spring. She's getting married to a good man, a teacher. He coaches Little League. I had to steady my voice. Congratulations, Mr. Mitchell. None of it would have happened if you'd sent me back that day. I just wanted to say thank you. No need to thank me. You did the work. Yes, sir, but you gave me the chance to do it. How's probation going? Haven't missed an appointment. Officer Rodriguez says I'm the most reliable client he has. In the baseball lessons, I could hear him smiling through the phone. Every Sunday, Your Honor, rain or shine, Bobby's teaching me a few things too. 6 months after that, I got another call. This time, it was Thomas Mitchell's daughter. Judge Caprio, this is Karen Mitchell, Thomas Mitchell's daughter. How are you, Karen? I'm calling because I wanted you to know what you did for our family. What do you mean? My father walked me down the aisle last month. The first time he's been at any major event in my life since I was 15. Her voice cracked. He's been to every one of Bobby's games this season. He taught him to throw, to catch, to hit. Bobby adores him. I'm glad to hear that. But Judge Caprio, there's something else. My father started a program at Star Market. He talks to young employees who are struggling, who might be heading down the wrong path, shares his story. He's probably saved more kids from making his mistakes than we'll ever know. That's remarkable. He says you saved his life that day in court. But Judge Caprio, you saved all our lives. You gave me my father back. You gave Bobby his grandfather. And you gave my father the chance to be the man he always wanted to be. A year later, I got a wedding invitation in the mail with a Providence return address. Inside was a photo of a little boy in a baseball uniform holding a trophy. On the back, someone had written in careful handwriting, "Thanks for teaching us that promises matter. Bobby Mitchell, age 9, MVP, Little League champions." I kept that photo on my desk until the day I retired. Because that's what justice looks like when it works. Not just consequences for what you did wrong, but chances to do something right. Not just punishment for who you used to be, but opportunity to become who you're supposed to be. Last month, I saw Thomas Mitchell at a restaurant downtown. He was with his grandson, now a teenager, and they were looking at college brochures. Bobby wants to study engineering. Thomas introduced me as the judge who gave us our second chance. But that's not right. I didn't give Thomas Mitchell a second chance. He earned it. 23 years of earning it. Every day in prison, every class he took, every program he completed, every time he read his daughter's letter and promised himself he'd do better. All I did was recognize what he'd already become. You know, people ask me all the time about the cases that stick with me, the dramatic ones, the angry defendants, the ones who made headlines. But Thomas Mitchell, he never made a headline, never raised his voice, never claimed he was innocent or blamed someone else or tried to work the system. He just showed up in my courtroom as an honest man who'd made terrible choices and spent 2 decades learning from them. And when I gave him the chance to show me who he'd become, he didn't waste it. That's the thing about mercy that people don't understand. It's not soft. It's not easy. Real mercy is harder than punishment because it puts the burden on the person receiving it to prove they're worth the faith you're placing in them. Thomas Mitchell proved it. Not just that day in court, not just in the months after, but every single day since. Every shift he shows up for at Star Market. Every Sunday he spends with his grandson. Every time he reports to his probation officer on time. Every conversation he has with a young person who's heading down the wrong path. That's what justice looks like when it works. Not just stopping people from doing wrong, but helping them become the people they were meant to be all along. Helping them find their way back to who they were before they made the choices that cost them everything. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone who's lost their way is to see who they really are underneath their worst mistakes. And sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're patient, if you're willing to take a chance on human nature, you get to watch them prove you right. I'm Frank Caprio. Remember, sometimes the best judgment is not in the book, it's in your heart. Thanks for listening, and God bless.